Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Real Hosts of Short-Term Rentals. We are a mastermind group of hosts from around the world, and each week we get together and discuss a different topic in the short-term rental industry. Today's topic is diversification. So really ways of making money outside of what you normally do so that you can sustain when one side of your business is not doing as well as another. So let's dive into this topic. We'll go around the room. We've got Deana from Canada, Ray from San Diego, and Liam from the UK. Let's do it, guys.
hmm So I love talking about this topic because I am facing heavy regulations in my market. So I had to pivot quickly 90% of my portfolio from nightly short-term rentals to what I'm calling like executive midterm stays. And that has saved me. I still have some short-term rentals, which I thought were going to be like hitting the lottery because we've had such heavy regulations. There's very few to choose from. But because we've had such bad PR in our market, that's not the case. Those ones have been such a slog to get booked, whereas my executive rentals have been fully booked. So it was a huge saving grace having not only the experience. Prior to the regulations, about 30% of my inventory was midterm stays. So I was confident I knew how to fill the rest of them when the regulations did take place. So that's why I'm encouraging people to kind of step out of like their little hot, like their little hot part of the market and branch out a bit. I know everyone says like go all in, niche down, but I've been through the ringer a couple of times and I don't think that that's the way. Having some experience or some diversification in your portfolio or how you operate the portfolio will save you because this market just is so volatile, so fast. So having the not only the Rolodex, but the experience and the confidence of doing executive rentals saved my business. And I am doing 2021 numbers this year in my business. Each individual is doing really well as well. So I can't stress that enough.
That's amazing, Deana. And yeah, I mean, if you, for example, if you were in a market like New York City and Airbnbs were banned there, then you're SOL. So by having properties in other areas as well, it potentially can help you.
Yeah. I can jump in on this too. Deana, I have also been through the ringer a couple times, with STR regulations and different things that happen with, business building owners. I started off doing my business as rental arbitrage. And, as I grew my property count on the arbitrage side, I also grew the co-hosting side. So I think a good idea in terms of diversification is to also diversify the different models of how you acquire short-term rental homes, and in different markets as well. So not just the arbitrage model, because if you are, at least this is what I've found, if you're just renting out these units, and say the owner changes hands to a different owner in like a large apartment complex, so similar to my experience, they changed hands and they did not want to renew our lease. We were stuck with 12 units worth of furniture. So then now I had to figure out where to store it and sell them. So a good idea is to diversify on the co-hosting side, and not just for condos, you diversify on property types as well. So similar to what Dino was saying, the large homes sometimes in different markets work very well, but then if regulations hit, though you can transition over to executive rentals, but it's not always going to be super successful, but it's good to have those one bedrooms, two bedrooms that are smaller than like the 3, 4 bedroom count. And outside of short-term rental, what I've done is diversify into the interior design space as well. So when I first started doing the business, I found that interior design was really important to kind of offer as a second option for my co-hosting owners. So that's another added service that I add to the short-term rental side. And then if it's not a short-term rental project, it's still, at least getting some income outside of short-term rental. What one of my clients have actually turned into a short-term rental client from just, designing their home here in LA. And that's been really, really good for me. And some other diversification that I've seen other operators do is they have their own separate cleaning company. So it's not always short-term rental cleaning, but they have cleaning for, um, non-short-term rental needs. And then another thing that I've been working on as well is hotel development. I'm working with a mastermind currently, which is very exciting because now I'm in a group where a lot of people want to buy a hotel by the end of the year. So getting my feet into those conversations and into those groups is starting to really bode well in terms of diversifying into the hotel space because there's regulations, yes, but not a lot of regulations that are changing, similar to what we're seeing in the short-term rental space. So I'm really excited about how that's going to go. So fingers crossed that that's going to really be a thing for me at the end of the year.
Ray, that is amazing and very inspirational. And you mentioned earlier about doing interior design. I think it's actually a good topic to do at another time. We can talk about that because I know that more and more now the design of a place is becoming increasingly important. People are choosing places based on unique design and things that property offers. Whereas before it was not as important as it has become now.
Yeah.
So that's a really good thing to focus on. Um, I'll jump in next because I, like a lot of you who are watching this, I bet that you started in this business by renting out your own home or part of your own home. And then from there, you got the skills that were important in this business, and most likely you either went into arbitrage, meaning that you rented a place and then re-rented it on Airbnb, or co-hosting, where you were hosting for another owner. And that's exactly what I did. Is that I did sort of both models. I started renting out my own place, then I created Standout Stays in Sonoma County, north of San Francisco, and we are now up to 11 clients with luxury homes up there that we're managing. And hello, hello. It seems like it's okay. It's all good. All right. And then my short-term rental license in San Francisco was recently denied. So I'm now looking at purchasing another property outside of California to rent that one out instead. I also have a type of an arbitrage model, but with a timeshare. So I rent this out once a year for a trade show, and it's been an interesting model because you can only book a timeshare. I mean, oftentimes you need to book a year in advance. So the advantage with the trade shows, you know when the dates are, but it's also interesting in terms of being able to get the right pricing for it and make sure you're able to pay for all the maintenance fees. I wouldn't necessarily recommend the timeshare model to people, but for what I'm using it for, it makes sense for me. So those are some of the things that I use to diversify, and you just never know. I mean, the short-term rental license in San Francisco, this was a really big surprise after 8 years that it was pulled. So you just need to have your backup plans just in case something like that happens.
Yeah, that's crazy that that happened to you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm curious. how much diversification is too much diversification? Because we've talked about so many different things, and we'll hear from Liam in a moment. But we're talking about, okay, executive rentals, luxury homes, one bedrooms, hotels, timeshares, cleaning companies, interior design. Should we do it all? Or like, when do we stop? And when does it, like, how do you, because I've considered, we used to upcharge on the cleaning and kind of in-house. We used contractors in-house, and then upcharged our fees. And while we made profit, I was like, I'd like to take myself out of this loop entirely and put the weight, on the cleaning company versus me being a part of that. So I didn't find it worth it. Like, how do we, even if we want to dabble into it, how are we looking at like how much is, what is it worth it? When do we decide to add these into our Liam's back? This is live, by the way, guys. So this is what happens. But Liam, my question to the group was like, how much diversification is too much diversification for your company? Like, when do you know that maybe this isn't a good idea to to branch out so much?
I'm so glad you said that, and I'm glad that I managed to get back into the studio. I don't know what happened there, my internet just cut out, but because I got so much to say on the subject, and that was exactly what I wanted to talk about, which is how do you know when it's good to diversify and when not to diversify? Because ultimately, there's so many choices, and if you're anything like me as a entrepreneur and somebody who gets bored pretty easily, I like to diversify in my day-to-day role in jobs, and that's part of the reason why I'm unemployable now. Literally, nobody would want to employ me because I can't do anything for a long period of time. I like to get stuck in and create and grow a company ultimately. So when it comes down to, and we may recover some of the bits if I've missed anything, but obviously we've covered like the different types of diversification you can do, the types of guests, midterm, short term. We've talked about diversifying actually from things that you can do which are in a similar ballpark to what we do, because we look after properties and we look after people. So when it comes down to interior design, like Ray mentioned, it's within the same ecosystem. And there's so many of those type of businesses. You mentioned the cleaning business. I know a friend of mine who's just created a maintenance business, and now he was doing the maintenance for his short-term rentals. And now all the other hosts go to him because his maintenance company is the quickest to call out. They understand short-term rental. They don't leave the toilet seat up if they've done a repair, like they make sure it's guest ready and all of that sort of stuff. They really understand the industry. So when we're thinking about diversifying, there's all these kind of exciting things that we could go off and do. You can create your own laundry company. And when do you know what time is right to look at these? Some of the ones which I've seen most successfully that people do can operate where 70% of the time you've got to be in your main business. And then if you've got capacity, you need to make sure that main business is running well. And then the next 20% you can put towards whichever task it is. And the other 10% you can just put towards, your third favorite thing to look at diversifying, or maybe research, maybe a future project. And this is where at the moment I see a lot of people considering doing things like coaching. So I've been lucky enough to go and help another business do coaching, and that takes up a smaller proportion of my time than my main business does, but keeps me satisfied that I'm able to diversify from my main day-to-day income. One of the things which I've also seen people do is do just consulting. So you could even just set up, and this is what we do here, isn't it? That anybody can reach out to us individually. And if anybody's watching this and you just want a bit of one-to-one help and you want an hour, a couple of hours of our time, then we can do consulting in that way. And, whereas it's per hour consulting, not quite the same as coaching. But how do you know when it's a good idea as a host to move from arbitrage into management or co-hosting, or when it's a good idea to switch up your brand and have one luxury brand and one midterm brand? Well, for me, it is when something's running well. So first of all, make sure you've got the initial idea set up. So don't go and try and do everything at once. because I've tried to do that when I first started. I tried to set up a Midterm brand and a luxury brand, and it was just too much. There was too many things to do for all of those diversifications that I'd done. And so make sure one thing's set up first. So for me as a host, I set up my rental arbitrage business first, and I got a few of those. And then somebody said, hey, do you manage other people's homes? And I was like, well, I've got this thing set up. This now works. So yes, I've got capacity and I've got the skill set to be able to diversify into that next thing. So I think it's super important to do that. And the other way that I judge whether it's right to diversify, because even now as we speak, I'm thinking, software, I've got people that I know who have moved from doing short-term rental. We were talking about Jeff from IntelliHost just before we went live, and he was a short-term rental host, and he's created a wonderful piece of software which analyzes your Airbnb listings. It gives you hints and tips and things like that. And this is another great thing about being in our hospitality industry, that it's so easy to move from the thing that you're doing now into another part of the industry, whether that is design or building a software or all these different things which are within our ecosystem. But that's actually part of the warning, that we need to be careful that you're thinking logically, not with your emotion, because I see so many people get excited about the other thing, about diving into the new shiny diversification, and then it can really affect your main business. So for me, one of the things that I make sure the main thing is set up and it's working at least to 80% level, 90% level, to really make sure that's going to be okay before you start to diversify. And then before diversifying, I question whether the idea I've got of diversifying is thinking with my logical head. Is it, and what I mean by that, is there data? Is it a data-led decision? Is there data which will cause that decision to be successful? Or am I just thinking emotionally, thinking, oh, that sounds exciting, let's dive into there and let's go get stuck in. So that's the two things which I would say when we're talking about diversification, that the benefit of being in hospitality is that there's so many ways to diversify. The drawback is that it might mean that you chase many rabbits. And of course, if you chase too many rabbits, you won't get any. So that's my thoughts on diversification.
No, that's great, Liam. That's great advice. And I think that really going back to what you were saying about making sure everything is working smoothly, it's having a good team. If you have virtual assistants that can help you with communication and with other things that come up, so that you do allow yourself to have time to focus on these other areas where you can expand. But don't do it if those things are not working smoothly.
Yeah, and the caveat to that, because again, before we went live, I've been away for a week, turned all off notifications of my team, took care of things. There is always going to be things that can be done better, and there's always going to be things that go wrong in hospitality. But ultimately, as long as you come back and there's still a business there, I remember once upon a time, I'd go away and actually the business physically couldn't run without us, and we've all been there, right? So when it comes down to making sure something is almost set up, it's walking that line between not waiting for perfection, because nobody would ever diversify, and knowing that when it's time to diversify. And that's why I use that 70-20-10 principle, which a previous mentor of mine taught me, that really 70% of your attention needs to go to one place, 20% to another, and then whatever the future, maybe 20% or 70% will be, you can donate 10% of your time towards that.
Makes sense.
Ignoring relationships, fitness,
Oh,
health,
yeah,
children.
don't worry about any of that stuff. When you're into entrepreneurship, you just do it for you just get stuck in 100%. No, it is, again, it's making time for that stuff as well, which if I'm honest, I'm guilty of not. I've not got the balance there, but
yeah. And I mean Deana, that is a very accurate point, because I think that most people in this industry are very siloed. So it's really important to get out of that silo and to do things with friends and to have other interests, etc. Because otherwise it can be a pretty lonely world if you're not doing things that are outside of the realm of your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Even when you're going on vacation, you're like, oh, I see the way they do that. That's a good idea. Oh, let me take a look at their checkout guide or their.
Right.
Yeah, your brain is never,
Well,
it's not
that's
stopping.
that's ingrained. I don't think anyone in this business would not be thinking about that if they were staying somewhere somewhere on vacation.
That is, so when I
And
look through my
sometimes you
holiday
get good
snaps,
ideas.
when I look through my holiday snaps from last week, like literally the first one is me taking a picture of the welcome sign as you walk in, going, "Oh, that's a great idea to add that to my business." And that is the very first
Of
photo. I
course.
kid you not.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all want to keep on evolving, and anything that we see that will help is definitely beneficial.
So, question to the group to wrap it up. Is anyone considering adding anything new to what you're currently doing? If so, what? For me, I would love to move into the hotel space. That's a big one. That's like a 3-year project, probably. I don't know. Maybe it can happen faster. Ray, you tell me. But what else? What are you guys considering, Ad?
So
Yeah.
I've got two, which I'm researching at the moment. One is the agency model. So there's a lot of, especially in the UK, there's a lot of people moving towards midterm and perhaps worldwide. And the only portals which tend to get mentioned are Booking.com, maybe, the big ones. We don't have a furnish finders in any way, shape or form, but that kind of agency model where you can have a portal where people can book and you get a percentage. There's been some companies growing across here which do exactly that, and there's been one which is quite good at what they do, and it would be fairly low cost to emulate and to do that. So that's a diversification. And the other one, which always plays on my mind, because we're in a world of AI and we're in that digital age where literally things are changing every 12 months now. The world looks very different in the world of technology, that if there's a digital product to be created that will serve hospitality, and you see all of these amazing PMSs, digital guidebooks, services like which help you with the maintenance, scheduling and stuff like that. There's so many of these softwares around that actually, if any time you're going to create one of those, then now is a great time. And friend of mine has just done the same he's a property investor, but he's created a property toolkit software, which he is now launching. And that seems to make sense because there's funding across here in the UK for it. It's pretty easy to grow a business and to exit that kind of business. You can do it from anywhere. So all of that excites me at the moment, and that's what my research is going into, but there's no concrete plans for it.
Love it.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm looking at something that I haven't done before, which is basically investing in a short-term rental outside of the state. I'm looking to manage it remotely. So all of this is I have the skills and I know how to do it from my own home and from managing the properties that we do for our owners in Sonoma. But this whole process of looking to find a home, setting the whole home up from scratch, looking at your competitors and seeing what amenities do all of the competitors have and what things can you put into this home that will compete with those. So all those, it tackles a different part of your brain. Really, it's the creative part, which I like that aspect. I sort of straddle between the creative aspect and the business side. But yeah, it'll be an interesting adventure.
I would love it if you journaled that, because that could be super helpful for other people, right? Whether, even as just a guide, but ideally like a vlog.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see, all the steps that you take because it is, you're moving out of a total, like you're moving out of your comfort zone where you're managing stuff you've got your hands on to like totally hands off. Totally different ball game.
Mhm.
I love it.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, mine is the hotel as well, Deana. So really just focusing in on that. Hoping to keep my blinders on, and full disclaimer, I do have ADHD, so it's really hard for the shiny object syndrome to just kick in and be like, I want to start that business. But I have to keep my blinders on and go full in on the hotel business. Either, general partner into one, or be a joint venture partner into another deal. Anything around it, I'm down for.
Exciting stuff. Exciting. Super. Well, we don't yet have a topic for next week, but we will be live here on next Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with those people that would benefit from it. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Real Hosts of Short-Term Rentals.
We're going to get
Yeah, well-
sued.
Yeah, we're gonna get food now. Thanks, Lawrence.
Right. Until next week, guys. Have a great week, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Bye bye for now.